All right, John, can you start off by telling us a little bit about your company and product?
Sure. I'm John Craig. I am the creator of vastrank.com. That's V-A-S-T, rank.com. It's a college rating and review website. It's all of the content is user generated, so people will come to the site, they'll find a college or a trade school or anything that they've attended and so forth, and they'll actually create a user review. And basically, I come up with college rankings based on the user reviews. So no longer are the college ratings on the site based on professional reviews, but it's all based on user-generated content. Something that the way that the web is going now with reviews in general. So that's basically VastRank in a nutshell. It has some other unique features that were developed that is the reason that I'm here at Google I/O and showcased in one of the sessions that I did.
All right, so what Google development platforms are you leveraging?
So I'm using the Maps API. So at VastRank, if you go to VastRank and you click on the Map tab, it's something that we call the ranking map. And what it is that depending on what the user has in view and what the criteria that they choose, it will show you the top ranked schools for whatever the user has in view. So for example, you can zoom in on just the San Francisco area and it'll show you the top ranked schools, and if you pick like academics, it will show you the top ranked schools for academics, but then you can choose any of the ratings that users will potentially rate the college on VastRank. It's completely dynamic, so you can take the map and you can scroll over and you can see like the East Coast and you can see the top ranked schools, and it's all instantaneous. So I use the Maps API for that. And then I use the languages API in order to do translation. So basically, when a user comes to VastRank and their browser is set to a different language other than English, on the fly I use the Google Translation APIs to translate the user-generated content. Again, VastRank is centered around user reviews and user-generated content. So that's the most important element. So it was a perfect fit for the translation APIs, because when a user comes to the site that's say for German, I'll detect that on the server side and emit some JavaScript to call the Google APIs to translate that content for the German user. And actually at the conference today, I've had a few bilingual users that came to the booth and they were spot checking things and they were like, this is pretty good. So I'm really happy with that. Client location's another API that I'm using. That's just available to you off of the Ajax loader. So it's basically a way to try to find out geographically where the user is located, and it's based off of IP. In the keynote at I/O, they talked about making client location better via some other methods, but right now it's available via the Ajax API. You can actually get a location, and what I use for that is two aspects. When you bring up the ranking map, it tries to center the map where you are, which is just like a real simple use case for that. But also, VastRank has a personalization section where it suggests colleges to you, and it's on the right-hand side, like as you're browsing through the site. And as you browse through the site, it gets an idea of the colleges and the things that you're looking at. And then I come up with, based on historical data, I kind of take what you're looking at and look at what other users have looked at that you looked at, and come up with things that I might want to suggest to you that are interesting. And using client location, I can take those things that I'm going to potentially suggest to the user, and I can actually say, okay, I have this set of possible suggestions. Let me break it down by client location and distance to these colleges that I'm going to suggest, and then I present those geographically targeted suggestions to the user. So there's a lot of the Ajax APIs I'm using. I'm also using the geocoding APIs to geocode the colleges and so forth. And then ahead of time, and then on the ranking map itself, you have like a little center map function, which is the functionality is just like using Google Local or Google Maps now. So if you just enter in any particular text, you can click center map, it will center the map. So I'm using quite a few of the APIs actually on VastRank.
So what made you decide to use the Maps API, for example?
Well, originally, I spoke about this a little bit in the session that I had at I/O, but the original vision for VastRank was that every college would have a profile. And then what's the interesting thing on profiles at social networking sites? One of the most interesting aspects is the profile picture. And for me, being a developer at the time, I knew Google Maps was cool. It was something I wanted to play with. It was about a year and a half ago when I started to think about this. And I didn't have a profile picture for each college, right? So it was hard enough putting the data together for all the colleges. But what I needed to do was come up with something to put in place of the profile picture. So I started to play with maps just by, it was an evolution. I said, I'm going to put the Google map there. And then I had an aha moment because I had all these colleges in memory and so forth, and that evolved into the ranking map. So each profile where a normal user's picture would be on on like a MySpace or Facebook or any other social networking site, that's where I put the Google map, and that's how I got started with it. So it was never like some great idea that I had in the beginning. It was an evolution, you know, of trying things and experimenting and so forth.
All right, very cool.
So
outside of what you've talked about, what are some other benefits that you found of using the Google APIs?
Really the biggest benefit of the Google APIs is they provide you these awesome capabilities, like the client location, for instance, and translation, but they are dead simple, right? So like when I did my session, the session was more about the concepts of creative ways to use the APIs, because really when you're calling the APIs, they're so simple. Like translate, you're basically passing a chunk of text. You're passing, here's the source language that it's in, and here's the target language that it's in. So, and then you get a result back. For client location, for the client geocoding and the client location and so forth, those are just like one method call and so forth. So the real benefit of the Google APIs is they're just clean. They offer you these these things that are relatively simple functionality-wise, you would think, but you can expand on those ideas and use them in creative ways, and think about your own business solution or whatever you might be developing, and the API just stays out of your way. For me, the API is simple. You read the documentation once, you just go through it and experiment, and it's like dead simple, you know? So that's the biggest benefit that I've seen.
So it sounds like it's reduced the amount of work that you
tremendously, yeah. Even oftentimes in one line of code, you're getting like translation. I'm adding translating content on my site. I put it together in 40 minutes, literally.
Wow.
So it saved a tremendous amount of work.
So what kinds of features were made possible by having access to the Google API?
You know, just the ones I've gone over so far, you know, like internationalization of content, something that would have, if I had to go other avenues, it would have been much more difficult to translate all of the content. And then the ranking map, which is like completely driven off, if I didn't have the mapping technology and the APIs with that, I would never have been able to develop the ranking map and so forth. And personalization, which is like a real key aspect that I really find interesting and that is a real high value to users, of being able to geographically target suggestions and so forth and make their experience better. I mean, to be able to do that in one line of code to get their location and so forth, all of those features would not have been possible had it not been for the Google APIs.
Well, John, I want to thank you for your time today and sharing your
Cool.
story.
Cool. Thank you so much.